reports. We're thin this afternoon, so we're reaching out to other members to see if they plan to join us so that you can make a decision about how to move forward. But
I apologize. I had a 4 o'clock hearing that I just got back to my office. Sometimes the day job, the one that actually pays my bills, I've got I didn't think it would go that long, but sometimes these things happen.
No need to apologize. I was just talking about the many, 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 many years of service you have given to this committee.
Well, thank you very much.
So I pulled up my list, and it looks like the only people who accepted are present. So everybody else, there was no response.
Well,
Christy, I couldn't hear you. I'm going to step out so I can hear you clearly.
And Jessica, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Recapito, she did let me know that she's not going to be able to make it.
I'm glad we had. I had asked Dr. Cupid-McCoy to work on the dates, because I know my SAC asked me for the dates of the DAC meetings for next year. And this is supposed to be the controversial topic, right?
Yeah, but it has gotten far less controversial. Why? Because I'm sure that you don't watch Curriculum Advisory Committee meetings just for fun, but the last 2 months, Curriculum Advisory has addressed this topic. And the first month, it was very controversial. And the second month, the way the staff laid out the information made it very clear that the district is just following the law. That's it. I mean, there was an explanation of what the law is, and it didn't sit entirely well with everyone in the room, but both sides were in the room. And at the end of the meeting, both sides were like, okay, well, it is what it is. So I actually was coming into this meeting wondering whether it's even a useful topic for DAC. I think it's useful from the perspective of learning about the issue and understanding what a parent's rights and responsibilities are with regard to the books taken out of the library. But there is no real feedback that you guys can give, because everything the district is doing is right in accordance with the law. So that's what I was going to say to you tonight.
Well, we were doing that topic at your request. So if you would want to suggest a different topic, I'm not opposed to that.
What do you think, Dr. Cupid-McCoy? I feel like, I know that the drive here is to get feedback from the group so that we can make student experience better, employee experience better, parent experiences better. I'm not sure this topic can gather or garner feedback. So what do you think? Should we stick with it so that the whole group knows what we're doing, or should we pivot and go with something else? What do you think?
I would say we pivot and move to something else. You know, I think there's one additional change coming out in updated legislation, which may cause us to have to change one aspect of the current process, right? But until said legislation has been voted on, this is our current process. So it would make sense for us to hold, and depending on when that sign-in goes into effect, trying to make this topic one that comes to us early so we can actually react to that and provide some feedback to the Curriculum Advisory Committee before they move forward.
Okay, that sounds great to me. Do you have any topics in mind?
honestly, I was not prepared for that, so I don't
Right.
have them in front of me. We had
Early literacy?
we had early literacy, and I think one was about the portrait of a graduate.
That's what I was thinking. And we were
Um,
gonna combine those two, weren't we?
So, I could, get the team together and hopefully come with, here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to bring something that's half-baked, right? Because that won't sit well with me, let alone with DAC. So if it's possible, I would like about 24 to 48 hours to sit with the team and see what's feasible, so that we have a good product. And if it's permissible, I'd like to share that with Chair Hertz and see how he would like to proceed.
I'm certainly willing to work with you. You know, we don't have a big group here tonight to suggest topics. I don't know if Mr. Walbert has any topics, or if he has a recollection of, you know, I don't know where we were last. I know in one of our meetings, and I'm drawing a blank, in one of our meetings, I don't know if Christine members, we did talk about pulling the list of topics and keeping that. You know, I'll certainly say that in the past we have done that. There is somewhere in our minutes or history over the last year to 2 years, an ongoing list of topics that we can keep to talk about. You know, and I've talked about, I'm not a fan of doing the same ones over and over if we don't have something new to add, but there are sort of sometimes perennial topics that come up and people ask about that are good to solicit feedback on. You know, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what there is that is a hot topic for feedback. You know, I continue to be concerned about IB, ACE, and dual enrollment and how all that's presented to students. Some of that was I saw picked up in the high school group. I realize that's probably not as directly applicable to elementary and middle school, but some of that got picked up by multiple members in the policy discussion and those issues. I just learned for the first time, my son graduated dual enrollment from FSW with his AA degree. I'm very proud of him, and is going to University of Florida, and he wants to go on to now they call it pre-health, apparently as opposed to pre-med. He wants to be a psychiatrist. And I learned in going through that while your IB credits and AP credits may count for college and your bachelor's degree, I had no knowledge that a graduate school may not accept those. So while you could get a bachelor's degree, you could then go on to go, let's just say, to be a medical doctor, and they could tell you that your AP chemistry class is unacceptable. You have to go back and take a college chemistry class in order to for your degree to qualify for medical school. That was something I had zero knowledge of. The other thing that stunned me is in going through I can only tell you about the University of Florida website and my own experiences and going through the courses. They explicitly talk about AP classes. They explicitly talk about IB classes. They explicitly talk about dual enrollment classes. I didn't see a mention of ACE. They don't mention it. That concerned me that, you know, I as you all may recall, I have a child that goes to North Fort Myers High School and is enrolled in the ACE program, and you know, had been considering changing to dual enrollment, and was, I'll say, strongly lobbied by her counselor to stay in the ACE program, and being told ACE program is better. Well, ACE program is, in my personal, just giving you my personal opinion now, ACE program is clearly not better than dual enrollment if dual enrollment classes are going to count for your bachelor's degree and postgraduate degrees, and nothing else other classes aren't guaranteed to. I'll phrase it like that. That's of great concern to our students, particularly with our current executive state executives' opinions on some of these things, and it appears that the governor, at least in my opinion, you folks may have another opinion, but seems to be focusing on dual enrollment more so than, I guess, what was it, IB, that he was displeased with some of their course designations. I don't know about these, but or was it AP? Maybe the AP. It was the AP. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't come prepared to talk about this, but he, he seemed to have some concerns, and his, I guess, committee members have some concerns with certain aspects of AP, and the response was, well, we have dual enrollment in our state, and that's an alternative for our students. That's an important topic. And if we're encouraging students to do things like IB and AP and ACE, and those are not truly equivalent to dual enrollment, and dual enrollment is truly better, I don't know that you can be ready to talk about that in a week, but that's a topic for the district to be very concerned about and focusing on. If that's a major pivot for the district, if it should be trying to replace those programs that it's worked so many years on with dual enrollment, and expand its partnerships with FSW and with FGCU. And if you need more teachers certified to teach those classes, I mean, I know at North there are dual enrollment classes taught on campus. I'm assuming Benita High School probably also has some dual enrollment courses that are taught physically on campus. But telling our students that they're all the same, apparently, our state universities may not agree. That to me is a topic that really surprised me. And I learned about it from my dual enrollment, from literally putting his courses in to do that. So my daughter is changing from ACE to dual enrollment. I mean, it's, that this is all sort of personal information that, I know DAC's not supposed to be about our personal stuff in the district, but that's pretty huge for the whole district, I think, for students to find out after the fact that their IB credits may not work for postgraduate degrees. And ironically, students that are doing, this is anecdotal again, you folks tell me, you probably have numbers on it, but I would guess that the percentage of students going on for postgraduate degrees are higher from ACE and IB than they are from people that don't do those types of, or if I say ACE, IB, and dual enrollment, I would imagine those are the students that are more likely to go on to postgraduate degrees. So that's a pretty timely topic, I think. Whether staff could be ready to explore that and present on it, I don't know, and about how that information's gotten out to our members and what feedback they could get. But you might get feedback again that might be more just the high school level. I certainly wasn't thinking about that in middle school, other than in 8th grade when we were talking about school choice and picking what school we we're going to go to. So for all of you that just joined, what occurred is our topic for the next DAC meeting was to be the process to review books used by the district. Ms. Board Member Patrica relayed to us that the curriculum committee has been addressing it, and it appears very strongly that what the district is doing, there's relatively little room for discretion in how to implement the statutorily required methods, and that sort of both sides of the debate, the people that are against the way it's being reviewed and the people that are for the way it's being reviewed, all seem to agree that, or rather, let me restate that, the people that are against all the books being reviewed and the people that are for all the books being reviewed, to say it broadly, both seem to agree that the way the district is doing it is what they're statutorily required to do. So Board Member Patrica has questioned whether there is enough leeway to even make it worthwhile to present it to DAC to get feedback. And we were starting to talk about potential other topics. Dr. Cupid McCoy very fairly said, I didn't come prepared with a list of topics. And so I was throwing something out. And then I mentioned that, certainly Ken and Chelsea, you folks have been around for quite a while. There have been topics that come up a lot, and other topics we've suggested that we didn't do this year. So I don't know if people have thoughts on other topics for the upcoming DAC meeting that we could suggest at this time. And then we could see, Dr. Cupid McCoy can see if she can facilitate making one of those happen, or if they want to come back with a different suggestion, but obviously we have limited time.
So, Mr. Hertz, I kind of agree with what you were saying. My son's going into 9th grade. and just trying to pick out his core classes. It's honors world history, AP world history. So it's there's not a lot of information when you're looking at these classes of what the benefits are to each level. So I think that AP, knowing the difference between AP, IB, ACE, and what they'll do for you postgraduate, post-secondary school, is a very important topic. I know in the past we've talked about transportation. I don't think that needs to be a topic. I think a lot of those issues have been either discussed or relieved at length. We've discussed it. I don't think it needs to be something that needs to be rehashed again and again. The only thing I'd like to hear, possibly going before we get into the new school year, is an update on the Naviance platform and how it's going, and is it going to be ready to launch as we kick into that new school year. Again, that's probably looking more at a high school level than anything else. But I know that talking to people in my SAC and such, they're interested to see how Naviance is going to help their students as well. So that's what I have.
I just don't know how much we as elementary are going to be able to contribute to either of those topics, because I don't think any of that's on any of our radars at this stage.
So so when I apologize that I thought it started I was off on timing by a half hour. So thanks for whoever it was that called me and said, hey, join. So my bad. But one thing that might be helpful is, the state considering that the change to the start times, has the district thought through implications, or maybe even getting ahead of the state's mandated date, which I think is 2025, if I recall, to try and get in line with that push to make sure that we're not having students start at 7 a.m. And maybe more aligning with the times that are being proposed, because that impacts everybody.
It does impact everybody. I can tell you that from my perspective as a board member, no, we have not. I've not had any discussions with the superintendent. That information has not come in front of the board. I would think that it's too soon for staff. Dr. Cupid McCoy, you can correct me. I would think it's too soon for staff to have wrapped their arms around that yet. The other thing I'll tell you is I think that the implementation of the new proximity plan for next year is going to really let us know where we are in terms of transportation. And I would think that waiting to see how that shakes out and how that relieves a lot of the burden on the transportation system is going to be very informative to us as we engage in new later start times. It's all sort of related.
Something I have heard a lot of questions about recently is I've had multiple people come up to me within the last month and ask me about new schools being built and where population distribution is going on. I've heard, is there anything going on in the Northwest Cape? What's going on with Cafarata? Is something going on in the East area, closer to Estero? I don't know if there's anything that can be built out on that, but I'm just mentioning that that's a topic I've heard a lot about lately.
Happy birthday, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that we could get that together in a week. Dr. Cupid McCoy, could the ACE, dual enrollment, AP, could all of those topics be part of Portrait of a Graduate?
Ooh, to wrap that all into that presentation, that's a bit much. If I understood Chair Hertz's consternation, I think we would need to, one, be in contact with some of the major universities to get the clarification. What is the distinction? What happens between a student entering the University of Florida with ACE or AP credits, and then a student wanting to move on to graduate level work with those courses when taken in high school. I know part of the immediate benefit for the student going to undergrad is he or she can save funds because they're going in with college credits. So they complete the undergraduate degree at a much faster rate. Now, the piece that I'm unclear about is what he just referenced. Those credits transferring into a graduate program. So I'd like to have Lori Brooks and her team just get an update from maybe just a few of the local universities. That is probably something we can tie in, you know, but understanding if that is the case for IB, if that is the case for AP, if that is the case for ACE, or is it just isolated to ACE? You know, and then what is the distinction between those advanced level coursework and dual enrollment as it relates to grad school? So will all of the DE courses, in fact, you know, transfer over to grad school for credit, or do they all have the same fate?
Yeah, and if I could put just a sort of a different twist on it, Chair Hertz, my experience has been very similar. My daughter's at USF and she went in with a bunch of IB credits and a bunch of AP credits. And it's not that the graduate school, medical school specifically for her, won't accept the credits, it's that it's frowned upon. And it's an incredibly, as you know, competitive process to get into medical school. And so if you have a kid with an IB credit versus a kid who got chemistry in college, the kid who took chemistry in college is going to get in over the kid that has the IB chemistry. That's what she's being told. And you know what? I mean, this could be the university system trying to get her to take classes that she already has credits for. I don't know what their motivation is, but I'm also very hesitant to tell her to ignore that advice when her dream is to go on to medical school. So is that closer, Chair Hertz, to what you're experiencing?
And that could be it. You know, I'm not remembering, I wasn't anticipating having the conversation. I was literally, I'll be very explicit. There's a preview program for the University of Florida that the students are required. It's mandatory to go up to. He's been admitted, and it was part of that process and going through the website and filling out courses where that information was displayed on a web page. That's how I learned it. It wasn't in depth. It just says sort of a warning that he wants to be pre-health, and it's telling you it gives you a almost like a minimum curriculum, like you should take all of these classes if you're going to be pre-health, though different schools may require something different. Be warned that postgraduate schools may not accept AP and IB credits, although they count for your college credits. And I was stunned when I read that. I had never heard that before.
Yeah, because they have certain prerequisites in order to get into medical school. And if one of those prereqs came from an IB course or an AP course, it's my understanding that the grad schools frown upon it. And I will tell you, you know, she was at Florida Southern her first semester and then transferred to USF her second semester. Both schools told her the same thing. So just by way of background, I know we're not going to do that next month as a topic, but I'm also not going to be the DAC rep or the DAC liaison next year. So I wanted to provide that to you, Dr. Cupid McCoy, for when this topic does come in front of DAC.
Likewise, if my daughter switches to FSW and is not enrolled at North, I may not even be eligible to be on DAC next year. I know I've been warning everybody that I won't be doing this forever, but I may not even be, you know, as a charter school, although it's under the district's guidance, I don't believe the charter schools have a representative on DAC. So I may not even be eligible to be on DAC next year. If that's the case, is I wouldn't be a representative of one of the SACs.
Makes sense. So Dr. Cupid McCoy, do you want to try to run with those two topics and circle back with Chair Hertz in a couple days and see if we can run with those?
Yes, and the two topics I think I have are the advanced coursework and how that works at the postgraduate level. That would be one. And the second would be early literacy / portrait of a graduate. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, if we can, but if we can't, that's totally understandable as well.
Dr. Cupid McCoy, I would also add not just postgraduate, but even, you know, it's anecdotally, what I've heard is the same is true for acceptance to college, that they consider dual enrollment. Again, if all things are equal between two students and one has, I'll say an AA degree or all their credits to dual enrollment, and the other one has an ACE diploma or has IB credits or AP credits, they will, it is my understanding, anecdotally, they will pick the student with the AA degree from dual enrollment over the other advanced classes. They are not all equal in the eyes of at least Florida universities, is what I'm being told. So not just postgraduate, but as Board Member Patrica said, preference maybe. I really wonder whether we're doing our students a disservice by encouraging these other alternatives versus dual enrollment, though I recognize dual enrollment's relatively new. You know, and of course, how long it's been around, but that may be something the district should really look into is, are we recommending the best things for our students?
I will have the team work on that and explore another avenue as well for those students who may be interested in attending college outside of the state of Florida. What are the possible implications for them as it relates to AP, IB, and ACE? So I think in exploring this topic, we look internally at state schools, but we also will need to take a look so that we can provide appropriate guidance to parents and students as they decide which path to take. All right, I think I understand my charge.
Circling back, then we need to approve the minutes from the last executive committee meeting. I think only Chelsea and I were present. I'll represent to you that they appear to be an accurate representation of the last executive board meeting, but I guess under Robert's rules, I can't be the one to move to approve unless I hand off the chair to somebody else. But maybe
So
Chelsea.
I'll make the motion to approve. I reviewed them.
Okay.
I'll second.
Anyone opposed to approving our minutes from the April 3rd executive committee meeting? So approved. That takes us to approving meeting dates for the executive DAC and the DAC committee for the next school calendar year 23 to 24. I'll admit I did not have an opportunity to review any of those dates in advance. Are they all the Mondays and Wednesdays as we were done this year? Or is there any of them that are exceptions that people should be aware of? Do you know, Dr. Kibben McCoy?
I believe there is one exception to the rule where it's on a Tuesday, and I believe that's because there's a professional development day, but we've kept DAC meetings on Wednesdays and executive DAC on Mondays.
Does anyone have any comments or discussion on the dates that have been proposed for the next school year? Looks like Chelsea does. She's trying to.
I'm reviewing. Just one moment, please.
While she's doing that, can I grab the names of who motioned to approve the minutes and who seconded?
Gabriel Denny moved to approve, and Chelsea seconded.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Cuban McCoy, did you mention that one of the dates had is it the January one?
But they have it labeled, the 9th
Yeah.
is a Tuesday, they have it labeled.
Yes,
I don't see any issues otherwise. The 9th, isn't that the day that we come back to school though? That may be pretty challenging for people. I guess there's not much that could be done for that though, huh? Unless we did it the 15th, and over the 15th would be MLK Day, correct?
yes.
And we had looked at doing it in December, but that puts us before the winter break, and we felt like that would just be too long of a span in between.
What about the 16th? When we come back, I guess it's still the same problem as the 9th, huh? It's just we're coming back from a 3-week break on the 9th. I mean, otherwise it looks good to me.
Does anybody have any opinions on January 9th versus January 16th?
It's a tight fit, but I think if we get the emails out in advance, I don't think it's going to be a big issue with having the 9th versus the 16th.
And it is just the executive committee. So it's a shorter meeting.
Yeah. But I think the 9th also gives us more time to prepare and be prepared for the end of the month with the general meeting.
Does anybody have any objections to the, well, I guess technically we should have a motion so she can record it. Can someone move to approve the dates?
I can make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Gabriel.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ken. Is anyone opposed to the suggested slate of dates as staff has presented to us? They are so adopted as presented. I guess there's not a lot of point in digging into the agenda since we're talking about a different topic. So we'll do our best to coordinate. I'll work with Dr. McCoy to coordinate that. And, you know, our agendas do tend to follow. We had put more time in for public comment on that particular subject because we were concerned it was a controversial topic, but I don't think it'll be as concerning for the topics we're talking about. So that takes us to board member comments if board member Patrica has any additional comments.
I just want to tell you guys how appreciative I am of the feedback that you provided in the last DAC meeting. I felt like it started a little slow in the sense that there wasn't a ton of substance in the initial presentation. But after that, I think that Dr. Hertz might have pushed a little bit and then we got some more substance. And then when we went into those breakout groups, I have actually asked the superintendent to watch all of those. We've got our second board retreat tomorrow with cabinet. And I expect to see the themes that I heard in that DAC meeting and in those breakout groups. I expect to see those discussed and presented to the board and to the cabinet tomorrow. I thought you guys did a fabulous job and I'm grateful. That's really all I wanted to say tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Does anybody else have any comments for the good of the order? All right, then seeing none, I'll again comment, you know, be aware this next meeting may be my last meeting though. Certainly, you know, Ken or whoever decides to step up to the plate and be willing to be the chairperson. If you, my contact information is available. I certainly, I've invested many years into this process now. So 11 years I've been doing this on the committee, not 11 years as chair, but it's, I don't know, 4 or 5 now as chair. So I've got a pretty big investment in it. So I'm certainly, even if I'm not on the committee, if anyone ever wanted to reach out to me or ask me questions or something, I'd certainly be happy to respond to you. But with that said, I'd be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Hertz, I will hold up my end of the agreement that I made with you and I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. Anyone opposed to adjourning? Everybody have a great night. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. I'll talk to you soon, I'm assuming.